Have you ever had the feeling that some people wake up, look in the mirror, and think, "Today, I'm going to be a problem"? That's exactly what happened to me. It was supposed to be just another quiet Tuesday in my peaceful life, as someone who looks after a stable with 30 horses. 30, yes, because if you're going to work with a big animal that shits the equivalent of a Fiat Uno a day, you should do it in style. It all started after this woman, who didn't even have a name at the time. To me, she was just the new neighbor of the house with the green gate, appeared out of nowhere in the neighborhood, with that look of someone who judges even the wind. First, it was the noise of the running horses. Then came the scandal over the smell, and when she found out that some visitors were taking photos with the animals, that was it. She started looking at me like I was a high-risk environmental criminal. The woman looked like an Instagram filter, so plasticized and stuck up, living in a world where every horse is mistreated just because it breathes near a human. But the apex of the delirium came on a sunny day, just when I was bathing one of the stallions. A white truck arrives, all decked out, with a guy getting out with a vest, a clipboard, and an expression like he was bored just breathing. He says he's here to carry out an emergency inspection into allegations of mistreatment and irregular operation of the stable. Me? Irregular? Of course, because washing horses has now become a misdemeanor. It didn't take me long to realize that this was a setup. The guy didn't even know the name of the property properly. He called my horse Ox and wrote agricultural area with cattle management on the clipboard. It's mind-blowing, isn't it? But you know what's worse? The owner of the complaint was there, hiding behind the fence, filming everything with a bright pink cell phone. A child playing spy-level disguise. You could hear her footsteps on the gravel from how nervous she was to see the circus catch fire. And that's where the "I have no patience for suckers" factor comes in, because there are people who play dirty but don't even know how to play properly. They send fake invoices, but forget that those who live on horses live on strategy. I'd come across pickpockets before, but this one was special, because he spoke as if he'd read half a page on Google and thought he was Caesar of the health surveillance. He spoke with such generic authority that I almost asked him to check my microwave too. Maybe it's not up to federal standards, right? The fake inspector walked around the area twice, looked at the horse drinking fountain as if it were a nuclear installation, and wrote down more meaningless things. Until, at the height of his arrogance, he snapped, "I'm going to have to go into the stable to check on the internal management of the animals." Then my soul smiled. Internally, I began to put the plan together. Because if there's one thing no one can take away from me, it's the pleasure of seeing a sucker get screwed by his own choices. So I did what anyone with a sense of irony would do. I opened the gate with the biggest smile in the world. "Of course, Inspector. Make yourself at home. The animals are loose, but they're all docile." He hesitated. You could see his soul trying to escape through his ear. But he went in, and as soon as he was over the edge of the fence, I closed the gate. I locked it with a key. I took 2 steps back, crossed my arms, and stood there, like a spectator at a bullfight. Because that's it. You want to play grown-up? Then put up with it. Inside, 30 loose horses began to notice that there was a foreign body in the enclosure. They didn't attack, of course. They're well cared for. Polite, fine people's horses. But they have no patience with idiots either. Especially an idiot who started walking among them as if he were the overseer of the universe. And the best thing? I left my cell phone camera rolling the whole time. One day or another, this story was going to yield something. If not revenge, at least entertainment. And maybe even a viral video, right? Meanwhile, the woman was outside freaking out. She started screaming that she was going to call the police, that she was going to sue me, that I was kidnapping a public official. I just retorted, "He's not a public official. He's a curiosity seeker in a thrift store uniform. You were the one who called, weren't you?" She turned white. You know the kind of person who sets everything up, but doesn't think 5 minutes ahead? She didn't expect her genius plan to fall apart so quickly. Inside, the inspector was already pale with fear, trying to walk slowly, as if he were in the middle of a minefield. The horses surrounded him, sniffing, poking, snorting close to his ear. One of them bit the clipboard and trotted off with it in his mouth, like a dog playing with a sandal. I almost cried with laughter. And there, at that moment, I understood. There's no point in trying to beat the force of nature with farce, because one day the fence will close, and when it closes, you either jump or you become a joke. He stayed inside for a good 20 minutes. Yes, 20. Because in spite of his face, the improvised inspector discovered that getting out of a corral full of nervous horses requires more skill than getting in. And every time he tried to approach the door, one of the animals seemed to make a point of stopping him. They're clever. Make no mistake. They can smell fake people from far away. And that one smelled like a scam. From where I was standing, I could hear some muffled shouts. The man was still trying to be authoritative, ordering the horses to back off, as if they understood civil code. At one point, he raised his arms and spoke loudly, as if it would work like a spell. "I'm an inspector. I'm here on business." One of the horses responded, with a neigh so loud it sounded like laughter. If you doubt it, it was. Outside, the woman was freaking out. She was talking on her cell phone as if she were calling the President of the United States. I swore the FBI was going to land there in a helicopter to handcuff me. She was so out of control that she kicked the gate hard and almost fell on her butt. And I, of course, just watched, with my arms crossed and my cell phone camera steady, taking in every second of that horror show. If I had popcorn, I'd be eating it. And the most delicious thing about it all was knowing that she was convinced she was right, that she was the neighborhood hero, the animal vigilante, the defender of good rural manners. But she was standing there, watching her plan turn into a slapstick comedy. And on top of that, she was being filmed. Because yes, my camera caught her too, from the moment she appeared on the ground pretending it wasn't her business, until the moment she started screaming like a bitch with an identity crisis. Not satisfied with the embarrassment, the woman threatened me. She said I was going to pay dearly for it, that she knew people in the city hall, that she was going to end my license, that she was going to make me sell everything. She looked at me like, "You don't know who you're dealing with." And at that moment I understood. She truly believed that she was powerful, that all she had to do was snap her fingers and the world would fall into place according to her will. And that's when I realized something else. These kinds of people don't want justice. They want control. They want to be the center of attention. They want to shape everything around them, as if the world were their doormat. And anyone who breathes outside the script becomes an enemy. The woman didn't give a damn about the horses. She wanted the stage. She wanted me to bow down, apologize, let her have my space. But if there's one thing I've never done in my life, it's bow my head to arrogant people. After a lot of drama, the fake inspector managed to leave. And how did he get out? By running. Literally running. He left with a sweaty shirt, his clipboard chewed up, his hair disheveled, and his dignity dragging on the ground. I opened the gate, and he took off like he was running away from a slaughter. His wife chased after him, shouting, "Are you all right?" as if it were a soap opera romance. I almost shouted, "Cut!" because the scene was worthy of parody. They got into the truck, and before leaving, she still had the audacity to roll down her window and shout, "You'll hear from my lawyers." Ah, the lawyers. Always them. The magic weapon of those who know they're in the wrong, but want to be right by shouting. All I said was, "I'll wait until today," and gave a debauched little wave. The truck sped off, faster than a truck going down a hill. The best part? I published the video. Yes, the whole video. I posted it on a local group in the city, which has over 8,000 members. In less than 2 hours, it was already trending. The title? YouTube Inspector Tries to Stop Stable, but Horses Won't Sign Contract. The crowd went wild. Comment after comment, people laughing, sharing, tagging friends. There was even a guy who made a meme with the inspector's face saying, I wasn't paid for this. It went viral. And the woman? She disappeared. For a while, at least. Nobody saw her on the street for a few days. She must have been locked up at home trying to erase her shame with bleach. But people like that don't learn. They just recharge their hatred and come back stronger. And I started to prepare myself because I knew one thing. She wasn't going to let it go. And when she came back, she brought an even more idiotic plan. The peace that lasted a few days was so good that I was surprised. I thought that maybe, just maybe, she had learned her lesson. I imagined her reviewing the video on her phone, pausing at every frame, analyzing where it all went wrong, crying inside as she read the comments calling the inspector a farm runaway. But no, that kind of person doesn't learn. They recalculate, and when they do, they come back worse. They come back looking like victims, more venomous, more disingenuous, and with a rehearsed speech on the tip of their tongue. And that's exactly what she did. She returned to the neighborhood with a different attitude. She opened a new social media profile, one full of inspirational phrases in cursive and selfies with filters. She started going around saying that she had been wronged, that she was only protecting the animals, and that she had suffered psychological violence from a man who used her own horses as a weapon. Look at the level. Turning me into a rural terrorist was now the new plot. What saved me was that no one with more than 2 neurons was buying it. But all it took was a few bored people to form a chorus of support and spread even more nonsense. And it didn't take long. She gathered this little group of lost souls, all of whom looked like they'd never taken care of a hamster, and started walking down the street again. Slow steps, judgmental looks, cell phone in hand, recording everything. They even set up a petition. Can you believe it? A petition demanding that my stable be closed until it meets international health standards. I don't even know where they got that from. Probably some vegan guru from TikTok. One day I overheard her giving a speech to 2 ladies on the sidewalk, saying that I used electric spurs and fed the horses contaminated feed. I laughed out loud. She looked at me with such theatrical disgust that you could hear the soundtrack of the drama playing in the background. The problem was that her theatrics began to pay off. A notice came from the town hall. Someone had made an anonymous complaint asking for urgent inspection due to unsuitable conditions for animals. You've seen it, right? Receiving a notice like that is no big deal for anyone who works with animals. It just happens. There are people who don't understand what a natural animal smell is, what a normal stumbling noise is, but the detail was that this complaint had too many words. It was full of terms that nobody uses naturally, like inconsistency in the equine containment structure and excess organic particles in the confinement environment. It was so far-fetched that you could see her finger in it, probably copied and pasted from some European activist blog. And so I had to do what anyone does when they get into this stupid war. Stop my work, spend time and money on a lawyer, and open the doors to real inspection. 2 technicians from the city hall came. Serious people, people who knew what they were doing. Unlike the cosplayer inspector she had brought before, they looked at everything. They measured, photographed, tested the water, analyzed the feed, looked at the state of the horses. And in the end, a very clean report. Everything right, impeccable. They even praised the condition of the animals and the facility. I knew that. Of course I knew. But seeing it in writing, signed and stamped, gave me a pleasure you can't imagine. Because now I had official ammunition, and I decided I was going to use it. I printed out the report, laminated it, and hung it in front of the stable with a notice in big letters. Approved by the municipality. Guided visits available by appointment. Just to tease. And it worked. She walked past it the next day. She pretended not to see, but her face reddened so much that she looked like a tomato about to explode. She lowered her eyes and tightened her pace. Her previously noisy followers began to disappear one by one. Apparently, no one wants to play the vigilante when justice itself comes into play and says that everything is fine. How ironic, right? But she didn't give up. She made one last move. She started spreading the word that my stable was a threat to the safety of the neighborhood. She said that the horses could escape, that they were aggressive, that I had no control. He tried to plant fear in people. He even went to a group of mothers in the neighborhood. He appealed by saying that a child could be attacked if a horse escaped. He made an ugly appeal. And then, my friend, he messed with what he shouldn't have, because even those who had kept quiet began to speak out. Parents who brought their children here for a walk, elderly people who came to see the horses in the evening, people who bought the manure to use in the vegetable garden. They all started to defend it. The response was a flood of support. Comments, testimonials, messages thanking me. There was even a petition calling for the stable to become a community asset. And the woman? Oh, she freaked out. She tried to argue with people in the street and was ignored. She tried to spread new rumors. She was denied. She even tried to say that she was being stalked by me, but she forgot that there was video, audio, and even a picture on her WhatsApp of her ordering the fake inspector to act. It was the beginning of the end for her. But she still had one last card, the lowest, most desperate card. And that's when she crossed the line. Her last shot was so low that it didn't even sound like it came from a functioning human being. But that's the point, isn't it? There comes a time when this kind of person goes into such a ridiculous spiral of self-pity and anger that they don't even realize how pathetic they're being. And when they can no longer manipulate, they invent. When no one listens, they shout. And when no one cares, she attacks. It all started when a rumor started circulating in the neighborhood that I mistreated my own employees. Employees who, it should be remembered, I didn't even have. It was just me, my cousin, who sometimes came to help me with the more skittish foals, and a little retired man who showed up from time to time just to give corn to the animals and tell stories about the time when horses actually pulled carts. But the woman, desperate to destroy anything linked to my name, invented that I kept workers in unhealthy conditions. And not satisfied with that, she called in a local human rights organization. Yes, she mixed up horse and human rights. Sounds like a joke, right? But it wasn't. A starched woman appeared, with a badge hanging around her neck, saying that she needed to check the employee's accommodation. I laughed so much that I had to lean on the fence. I told her that the only accommodation there was the barn where the cats sleep stacked in the hay. She didn't think it was funny. She made a checklist on a tablet, looked at the sky, the ground, the corners of the stable as if she were looking for a gap in reality. She didn't. She thanked him and left, visibly embarrassed. The most absurd thing? The woman wouldn't stop. She called the town hall again, sent an email to a TV news program, wrote an indignant text on Facebook with caps lock and everything. She said that I was a public danger and that she was in a constant state of vigilance and emotional distress for living next to a breeding ground of cruelty. And when that didn't work either, she took an even dirtier line. She said I was contaminating the groundwater with horse feces. I had to take a deep breath at that point, because accusing people of polluting the soil is a serious matter. And she knew it. It wasn't just a personal attack. It was an attempt to destroy my entire life. But once again, she underestimated everything, because I'd already done a soil test, an impact study, a biologist's report, a veterinarian's report, an agronomist's report. Everything was documented. And now, with this new accusation, I called in my lawyer, and that's when the tables were turned. Because when we decide to act with the same intensity, but using the right path, this kind of person falls apart. My lawyer filed a lawsuit for slander, defamation, false reporting, and attempted fraud against the public service. And it wasn't just a lawsuit, it was exposure. We attached all the videos, prints, records of the calls she made, the messages she sent to her neighbors. The dossier was so complete that it was more like a script for a detective series. She was notified and panicked. She ran to try to make a deal. She even called my lawyer crying. She said she didn't want any trouble. She just wanted peace. The same peace she had been trying to destroy for months. The same peace that she sabotaged with fake tax returns, public lies, smear campaigns, and senseless outbursts. Now, with the noose around her neck, peace has become a priority. How convenient, right? But then it was too late. She had to go to the courthouse, sit in front of the judge, listen to her lawyer, try to justify the unjustifiable. She used the old, "I'm just a concerned citizen" speech. She cried. She said she had an anxiety attack, that she felt threatened, that she was just fighting for justice. The judge, who has probably seen this play a couple of 100 times, looked at her like someone who looks at a child who has broken a vase and tries to blame the wind. And the sentence was beautiful. She was forced to pay a fine, publicly retract her statement, and was banned by court order from going near my property or mentioning my name on social media. I received the news with a cup of coffee in my hand and the smile of someone who has finally seen the universe align. The neighbors had a barbecue. One of them even put up a makeshift banner in front of his house, "Justice for the horses." It became a local joke. After that, the woman disappeared for a few weeks. They say she went to spend some time at a sister's house in another town. When she returned, she was more withered, more restrained. She stopped recording videos, handing out pamphlets, and walking around posing as a heroine. She became a ghost of the shame she herself had built. I've continued with my horses. The stable is still going strong, full of life, full of joy, full of horse poop, because that's how a healthy stable should be. But you know what else? Today, I laugh. I laugh at every desperate attempt, every crude plan, every scream in vain. Because the woman came with everything to destroy my life and ended up being crushed by her own ego. And in the end, she was the one who got screwed. Moral of the story? Never try to screw someone who raises 30 horses, because as well as strength, they have patience. And there are four-legged animals ready to sniff out lies from afar. That's it now. The farm is quiet, the horses are well fed, and the only fake thing around here is the artificial grass she put in the garden, trying to pretend she doesn't live surrounded by people who really know what real life is. And if she tries again, we'll just open the gate again. Don't forget to leave your opinion in the comments and your like below.